What would you do if the family you spent years keeping warm suddenly told you not to come home because your little sister needed peace for Evelyn Moore? A 38-year-old warehouse clerk in Duluth, Minnesota. It wasn't just another winter. It was the year she realized love without recognition becomes servitude, and silence, once broken, can become the loudest thing in a cold house. She had paid over $8,000 across 2 winters quietly covering heating bills, emergency repairs, oil tank refills just to make sure her parents and sister never had to feel the frost. But all it took was one phone call, one sentence. "You don't need to come home for Thanksgiving. Kayla's a little stressed." That was the moment Evelyn stopped being the family's backup generator and started learning what it meant to live warm on her own terms. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people feel the cold they once left you in. I was sitting by the window in my small Duluth apartment, a chipped mug of cinnamon tea warming one hand, the other flipping through a magazine I'd picked up for $1 from a thrift shop on Lake Avenue. Outside, the November sky sagged gray and low, heavy with a snowstorm that hadn't yet begun but promised it would. The heat hummed faintly from the corner space heater. I was thankful for that. This little apartment wasn't much, but it was mine, and more importantly, it was warm. Then the phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Mom, not Mandy, not Rachel, not some random extended relative. Mom. Something in my chest clenched. I pressed speaker. Her voice came soft, sweet, even. "Hi, honey. I wanted to talk to you about Thanksgiving." A pause. Then the sentence dropped like frost cracking glass. "We think it's better if you stay put this year." Kayla's been really tense. You know how she gets. For a moment, I thought she was joking or calling to tell me that Kayla wasn't coming so I could finally breathe during a holiday. But no, she continued. Tone steady and practiced. "We just want to avoid any stress. And it's so cold, you don't need to make that trip down." I set the mug on the table. The soft ceramic thud seemed to echo far too loud in the small apartment. "So, I'm not invited?" I asked. "Oh, no. It's not like that," she rushed. "Of course you're invited. It's just, Kayla's had a rough few months with the breakup and the art studio closing. She needs peace, you understand." Peace, a word they only used when it applied to Kayla, when I needed peace after working double shifts. After sending heating money at midnight during a blizzard, peace was never the concern. Only silence, only usefulness. "Mom," I said slowly, "do you know how much I've sent since January?" She didn't reply. $4,862. I continued. "For heating, for repairs, for fuel oil you and Dad couldn't afford when Kayla used your savings to buy 1,000 mass-produced candles she couldn't sell." Silence on the line, only the faint hum of air through ductwork and the soft tick of the kitchen clock. "You offered to help," she said finally. No one asked. I let out a hollow laugh. "Sure. Just like no one asked me to keep quiet when you gave Kayla the family savings, or when she posted vacation pictures with her boyfriend while I stood in snow at the bus stop." "Emily," she sighed, that familiar "don't make this a big deal" tone leaking in. "It's just a dinner. It's just one day." I stood up. The chair creaked beneath me. "Sharp and wooden. It's never just one day." I said, "It's every day. Every winter. Every time you needed me, I was there. And the one time I want to sit at the same table, Kayla's mood trumps my place. We're not trying to exclude you," she whispered, "but you are." I said, "And you know what? That's fine. But starting today, don't expect another dime for that furnace. Emily, come on." I ended the call. The screen went black. And for the first time in months, the apartment felt still. Outside, snow had begun to fall. I walked to the desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up the utility portal for Northern Heating Co., the same one I'd used to make 11 payments this year. I hovered over the Cancel Automatic Payments button, then clicked. A box popped up. Are you sure you want to stop service for 422 Elm Street? Yes. Yes, I was sure. I confirmed, closed the laptop, and walked to the window. Snowflakes drifted down in slow spirals. Beautiful, quiet, impartial. And unlike the people who raised me, snow never lied about being cold. The first message came the next day. It was from Mom. Just one line. The heater's acting weird again. Can you check it? I stared at the screen. Did she forget? Or was she pretending I didn't respond? I simply set my phone face down and poured more tea. That afternoon, the temperature dipped below 30 degrees. I stirred a pot of potato soup slowly on the stove, the smell rising like comfort, thick and simple. The radiator buzzed softly in the corner. Faithful. Later that night, I received a DM on Instagram. It was from Kayla. No greeting, no explanation, just this, seriously. You're gonna make everything dramatic again, followed by, nobody owes you a medal for helping out. Chill. I didn't reply. Instead, I clicked over to my gallery and deleted the last photo we took together 2 years ago. Thanksgiving 2021. She had her arm around me, all smiles, wine glass in hand. That was the year I drove 5 hours through a snowstorm just to surprise them, only to find out they'd eaten early without me. I never said anything. I never made a scene. I just smiled through dry turkey and frozen green beans. That was the last time I let myself believe I belonged. 2 days later, a name popped up I hadn't seen in a while. Rachel Green, my cousin. One of the few in the extended family who wasn't glued to Kayla's chaos. Hey, she texted. Just saw Kayla's story. She's saying you're boycotting the holidays over attention. I blinked. Boycotting. She told Aunt Claire you stormed off because you didn't get your way. Said you're trying to make Thanksgiving about you. Rachel added an emoji. My stomach twisted. Not with sadness, but something colder, like clarity. I typed, "Let her talk." Rachel replied, "You good? I'm warm." I answered. That night, I reopened the Excel sheet I had kept since 2021. Every payment, every transaction, and each line a quiet record of everything I gave. Jan 3, $312.45. Fuel oil emergency delivery, Feb 12, $425,000. System repair, noise in basement Septa 28, $400. Prepaid tank refill before winter. The sheet ended at October. No more entries. No more help. I closed the file. On Sunday, the temperature dropped again. Snow fell quietly over Duluth. I spent the morning reading near the window, wrapped in a fleece blanket I got on sale last year. At noon, I checked my phone. 7 missed calls, 3 voicemails, all from home. I didn't listen, not yet, but I did open the heating app one last time, out of habit. The account had officially been shut down. No balance due, no active service. The house at 422 Elm Street was now cold. At work on Monday, I was on my break when my coworker Ava walked in shivering. 23 degrees out there today, she said, blowing into her gloves. I nodded, sipping my thermos coffee. I heard it might drop to 15 by Friday. Ava groaned. You staying warm, I smiled. Warmer than most. She didn't ask more, and I was grateful for that. That evening, Kayla posted a selfie, wearing thick socks, holding a mug. The caption read, "Literally freezing in here. Feels like a meat locker." Dozens of comments flooded in. most with laughing emojis, some offering sympathy, a few tagging friends, joking about sending firewood. No one knew the truth, or maybe they did and didn't care. I turned off my phone, lit a candle, and played an old Miles Davis record on low volume. Warmth, in every sense of the word, was mine now. It was the 8th day since I canceled the heating service. The snow outside had thickened into crusty layers along the sidewalks. Inside my apartment, the space heater hummed like an old friend who never asked for anything. Then the doorbell rang, not the buzzy kind of ring from the front building entrance. It was my door. Direct, close. I rose slowly, the chill of caution rising in my stomach faster than the draft by the window. I looked through the peephole. Mom, wrapped in her thick old parka, her cheeks flushed from the wind, snow still clinging to her hood. She looked smaller than I remembered, or maybe just less certain. I cracked the door not wide, just enough to let out the warmth behind me. Emily. She began, her voice already trembling. I'm sorry for showing up like this, but I didn't know what else to do. I said nothing, just leaned slightly against the door frame. Kayla moved out. She continued. She's staying at someone's place in Eden Prairie. Your dad, he hasn't left the living room. He's wearing 2 coats indoors. The house is freezing, and I've got a cough I can't shake. Her eyes scanned the warm glow behind me, the tidy kitchen, the quiet, the soft light. It's 38 degrees inside. Emily, your father refuses to turn on the space heater. Says he doesn't want to use too much electricity. We don't know how to restart anything with the heating company. I nodded slowly. Then answered, soft but even. I didn't cut the heat. Mom, I just stopped paying for it. She swallowed hard. I know. It's just, it all spiraled so quickly. We weren't expecting it. We thought you understood. My eyes didn't flinch. Understood what? That I could be replaced. That I wasn't worth upsetting Kayla over. She was fragile, Mom said, her voice shrinking. She was careless, I replied. And you all made that my problem. We stood like that, me in the doorway of peace, her in the snowstorm of consequence. She looked at the floor, then back at me. Your father, he says this is going too far. I gave a breathless laugh. Too far. He said I should stay away to keep Kayla calm. That's what I did, but we didn't mean for this. You never meant for anything. Mom, I cut in, my voice still level. You just let it happen. You let Kayla run through your savings. You let me cover your bills. And then, when I needed one simple thing to be included, you chose her again. She winced. Not from the cold, from the truth. I'm not here to beg, she said finally. I thought you'd want to know how things are, that it's bad. It's been bad, I said. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. A long silence passed between us. The cold drifted in through the cracked door. I could feel it crawling over my feet, but not reaching my heart. I'm not angry anymore, I said at last. But I'm not coming back either. Mom didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just stood there for another long second. Then she nodded, soft, almost like a bow, and turned away. I watched her walk down the steps, her figure shrinking into the whiteness. The wind lifted her scarf slightly, and I saw her shoulders shake. When I closed the door, I didn't feel triumphant, but I did feel right. I wasn't keeping anyone out. I was just finally staying in, where it was warm, where I was enough. 3 days after Mom showed up at my door, my cousin Rachel called. Rachel was the kind of person who didn't call unless it mattered, and when I picked up, her voice came through fast, sharp with cold wind and frustration. Evelyn, you are not going to believe this. She didn't wait. Kayla just posted a video, like a whole sit-down, fake crying, drama-filled story about being abandoned by her sister during a family crisis. She's got the string lights in the background, soft piano music, a blanket around her shoulders. It's like she's trying to be some TikTok grief influencer. I blinked. She what? She says you iced out the whole family, that you refused to come home because you were jealous. And get this, she says, you cut off the heating to punish everyone, like it was some revenge plot. Rachel exhaled hard into the phone. I had to pause the video. My blood was boiling. I sat back on my kitchen stool, the phone in one hand, my tea cooling beside me, and the comments I asked, worse. Rachel said, people are sympathizing with her, saying, "You're so brave for speaking up." She's soaking it in. Not a word about the money. Not a mention that you paid everything for 2 winters. It's like you never existed except as a villain. I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. Instead, I looked out the window. Snow had begun falling again thick. Slow flakes drifting like feathers through the gray morning. Let her talk. Let the world believe what it wants. I'd spent years trying to explain myself to people who never truly listened. Now, I didn't need to explain to strangers either. "I'm not surprised," I said softly. "Kayla's always been good at performance, just never good at real life." Rachel was quiet for a moment. Then, gently, "Are you okay?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see it. "I'm warmer than I've ever been." Later that evening, I went for a walk, not far, just around the block. The sidewalks were icy, and the air cut through my coat. But I wanted to move, to feel the strength in my own legs. When I came back, I found another message on my phone. "Mom, your dad's been coughing badly. I'm worried. We tried to call the heating company, but we can't afford the upfront fees." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my savings app. Saw the exact amount I had left after months of working doubles and skipping holidays. I could have paid. I had enough to cover another refill, enough to keep them warm, just for a few more weeks. But I didn't move, because warmth shouldn't come with silence as payment. The next morning, Rachel texted again. "Just a heads up, Aunt Clara reached out to Mom. Apparently, your parents are trying to sell the house." I stared at the screen. Not shocked, just quietly tired. That house, I typed back, was the one I paid to keep standing. "They're selling it now, when the pipes are probably frozen," Rachel replied. "They're not telling people that. They're painting it as downsizing for retirement." I didn't answer. That night, I curled up on the couch with an old blanket and a book. It was quiet. No phone buzz, no guilt pressing against my ribs, no imaginary deadline hanging over my head, telling me to step in before it's too late. I had stepped out, finally, and the air, cold as it was, tasted like freedom, somewhere out there. Kayla was spinning her tail. Mom was likely crying in silence, Dad pacing near a broken thermostat. But me, I was just breathing. And for the first time, that was more than enough. Thanksgiving morning came quiet and gray. Outside, Duluth was wrapped in fresh snow. Every rooftop and parked car blanketed in white. No traffic, no voices, just wind. Even the city seemed to be holding its breath. Inside my apartment, the kettle whistled softly. I made toast, sliced an orange, and stirred a cup of dark coffee. No turkey, no cranberry sauce, no mashed potatoes. I didn't miss any of it. Not the noise, not the tension, not the feeling of being squeezed into a chair only when someone else canceled. I curled up on the couch, blanket over my legs, and pressed play on an old documentary I used to love. It had been years since I watched anything without multitasking, folding laundry, answering emails, planning heating payments in my head. But now I was just watching, present still. And that stillness was worth more than any invitation they never sent. Around noon, the doorbell rang. A steady knock followed. I already knew who it was. No delivery came with that much hesitation. I stood, walked to the door, checked the peephole. Mom. She stood bundled in her old coat, scarf wrapped tight, cheeks red from wind. A plastic grocery bag dangled from one wrist. Her boots were soaked. I opened the door just a sliver. She looked up, eyes glassy. Emily. Her voice cracked from either cold or regret. I didn't know how long I could wait. I didn't say anything. I know I messed up. She continued, I know it was wrong. All of it. Not just Thanksgiving, but the years before that. I watched you hold everything together, and I let it happen because it was easier. The wind rustled her coat. She swallowed hard. Kayla's gone. Really gone this time. She left the state, took whatever she could pack, and didn't even say goodbye. Your dad's, he's not speaking much. He doesn't say it, but I think he knows it was him too. I leaned slightly on the doorframe. I'm not here to ask you to come back, she added quickly. I wanted to say that you matter. Even if we didn't show it when it counted, I'm sorry. She looked down. I don't expect you to forgive us, but I had to try. Silence hung between us, longer than any sentence either of us could say. I slowly opened the door wider, not to invite her in, but to let her feel the warmth drifting out. Behind me was a quiet kitchen, a clean table, a room not cluttered with resentment. I'm not angry anymore, I said, and I wasn't. But I'm not the same person either. I'm not the one who pays silently anymore. I'm not the one who sits at a table just to make others feel whole. She nodded slowly. Tears didn't fall, but I saw them gather in her lashes. She stepped back. I understand, she whispered and turned away. I watched her walk until the snow blurred her shape, then gently closed the door. That night, I sat beside the window, holding a new book in one hand and a warm mug of cocoa in the other. The radiator clicked on with a soft thud, filling the room with gentle heat. Outside, the street lamp flickered, snow kept falling, but inside was mine. No more proving, no more begging, no more buying my place at the table. I opened the book and smiled at the first line. You can't warm a place where they always saw you as the cold wind. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was shivering anymore, and I didn't need a single apology to know that walking away was what finally kept me warm.